Welcome to the first episode of Premier League Weekly. This channel will be dedicated to posting a video once a week, usually on Friday, before the next round of the Premier League matches are played. The videos will focus on summarising everything that has happened in the last week in relation to the Premier League, as well as the matches for the upcoming week. Each video will also aim to have one new segment each week to keep the content from becoming repetitive. Now we'll move on to last week's results. First, I have to address the fact that there were only 9 games played last week, as the game with the two newly promoted sides, Luton Town and Burnley, was postponed due to Luton's home stadium, Kenilworth Road, not being ready to host Premier League fixtures as a result of the incomplete ground improvements. Sheffield United vs Nottingham Forest ended in a 2-1 victory for Nottingham Forest in a fairly even game. Sheffield's Gustavo Harmer scored a great shot from outside the box coming from a corner, and Taiwo Awoniyi and Chris Wood both scored headers in Nottingham's win. Liverpool vs Bournemouth resulted in an entertaining 3-1 win for Liverpool, which started with Bournemouth's Antoine Semenyo scoring in just 3 minutes. Liverpool responded by scoring 3 straight goals coming from Luis Diaz, a Mo Salah penalty, and a Diogo Jota tap-in. Alexis Mac Allister also picked up a controversial red card this game, which was later overturned on Wednesday, meaning he would not serve a 3-match ban. Wolves vs Brighton was a high-scoring game, with Brighton winning 4-1. Brighton was easily getting through Wolves' defence, which led to their loss this game. Karu Mitoma was the first to score off of his run all the way through Wolves' defence. The next goal was scored by Pervis Estupiñán from Mitoma's pass. Brighton's next 2 were scored by Solly March from 2 exceptional passes from Julio and Cesar. There were many blundered goal opportunities from Wolves, with Hwang Hee-chan being the only one able to score. Mateus Nunes picked up an unnecessary red card in added time at the end of the game. Brighton have been exceeding expectations this season, starting off with a flawless record and having 2 4-1 wins. Fulham vs Brentford ended 3-0, with Brentford picking up their first win of the season. Yoane Wissa scored once for Brentford from an error in the defence, and Bryan Mbeumo had a brace, with 1 goal coming from a penalty. Fulham's Tim Ream received a red card when he fouled Wissa, giving away a penalty. This week's biggest upset was seen in the Tottenham vs Manchester United match, with Tottenham beating Man U 2-0. Ange Postecoglou, who grew up in Australia and coached the Socceroos in the 2014 FIFA World Cup, won his first game at home as the new manager of the Spurs. One of Spurs' goals came from Pepe Matar Sarr, who scored shortly after halftime, and the other one from Alessandro Martinez's own goal. Manchester United have 2.5 expected goals this game, but were still unable to score, and their poor defence did not help with the final result. The former Premier League and UCL winners Manchester City dominated Newcastle United with their 1-0 win. Julian Alvarez scored the only goal this game. Erling Haaland and Isaac, who are the 2 frontrunners for the Golden Boot award in my opinion, were unable to score this game. Aston Villa destroyed Everton in a 4-0 win, resulting in this week's biggest goal difference from a match. John McGinn, Douglas Luiz, Leon Bailey, and John Duran all scored goals this game. Chukwuemeka responded to by scoring a skillful goal for Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez missed a penalty which could have changed the outcome of the game dramatically. Following this, Michael Antonio scored a powerful strike. To win the game, Moises Caicedo gave away a penalty in added time which Lucas Paqueta scored. Chelsea had just completed the deal with Brighton for Moises Caicedo after he rejected Liverpool and went for the biggest transfer fee in British history for €115 million. His debut was lacklustre and many fans were disappointed by his performance. Despite Chelsea's 76% possession and West Ham only having a 10-man team due to Aguero's red card, they still surprisingly lost. Now we will be looking at the top performances of last week. The winners of each game's man of the match include Martin Odegaard for scoring the game-winning goal against Crystal Palace, James Ward-Prowse, who had 2 assists in the win against Chelsea, Leon Bailey, who had a goal and assist against Everton, Phil Foden, who had 1 assist in the win against Newcastle, Pepe Matar Sarr, who scored a goal against Man United, Bryan Mbeumo, who had 2 goals against Fulham, Luis Diaz, who scored 1 goal against Bournemouth, Karu Mitoma, who had 1 goal and 1 assist against Wolves, and finally Serge Aurier, who had 2 assists against Sheffield United. My top 3 goals of the week would include
Here comes Jota, looking to cross it to Luis Diaz.
In third place, Luis Diaz for his little pop-up and finish. First place, Karu Matoma's run through the entire team to score the opening goal of the match. My assist of the week would have to go to Serge Aurier for this cross into the box to Chris Wood to score the game-winning goal. My player of the week for this match day would have to go to Karu Matoma. Matoma had an excellent game and was constantly a part of the Brighton attack, which led to their 4-0 win. He also scored, in my opinion, what was the best goal of the week. Matoma had 10 touches inside the Wolves box, which is more than any player on the pitch. Now we'll move on to the latest news for this week. The biggest transfer news of the entire season so far would have to be Moises Caicedo's recent move to Chelsea from Brighton for a British record fee of £115 million, as mentioned earlier. The 21-year-old Ecuadorian has signed an 8-year contract with the team and played his first game for the club last Saturday against West Ham. Next up, Manchester United confirms that Mason Greenwood will leave the club and will not play for them again. The 21-year-old had been suspended by the club since January 30, 2022 over allegations of domestic abuse and attempted rape until the Crown Prosecution Service announced 6.5 months ago that the case had been discontinued. It's unsure of where Mason Greenwood's going to go next in his football career. Being Premier League star Ivan Toney broke his silence on betting addiction. The English forward is sidelined until 2024 and has opened up on his ban and how it's impacted him and his desire to come back even stronger. Toney has taken responsibility of his 232 breaches. Toney also admitted that he started betting as young as 15 but has now given up any form of gambling. He stated that he's happy to get this off his shoulders and is ready to move forward. Pep Guardiola underwent emergency back surgery and will not be able to return to coaching Manchester City for another 2 weeks. But now for some good news for Man City. Manchester City have signed Belgium winger Jeremy Doku for £55 million. He should help the club tremendously as a replacement for Riyad Mahrez. This is my prediction for the upcoming 2023-2024 Premier League season standings. Now I do think Manchester City are going to win the league again, unfortunately. But in second place, I have Arsenal, who I do think could win first with Kevin De Bruyne out for Manchester City. I have Liverpool in third because they're a strong squad all around, especially after improving their midfield this off-season with new signings such as Szoboszlai and McAllister. I have Manchester United in fourth, but I'm a little unsure of this 2 weeks in because they've been underperforming. A team that I think could be better than Manchester United this season is Newcastle United. I have Chelsea in sixth, even though they could be a little bit worse, finishing in 12th last season. I still think they need time to develop and learn how to play as a team. I was a little bit unsure on who to put in seventh between Spurs and Brighton, but I have Brighton there for now because Spurs is under new management and Brighton have just been performing so well 2 weeks into the season. I have Luton in last place, so I don't think there's any way they even finish higher than 19th. The rest of the placements, from Aston Villa to Sheffield United, this is in my opinion the order of who's from best to worst. These are the upcoming games for match day 3 of the Premier League. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back next week with another episode of Premier League Weekly.